there was a moment where I was taking, like for me, if I was taking once a month, like, okay, I'm not even going to think about that. But I remember there was a couple of times where I was taking like every couple of days. And I was like, okay, this is getting kind of weird. I remember there were a couple of days I was just straight. Each day I was taking painkillers. Like, this isn't right. This is wrong. This is not good. This shouldn't be happening. And I really thought it was, I was just sleeping wrong.
Hey, I'm Michael Panic.
And I'm Michael Ray.
And we're the Michaels. We worked together for 8 years and through many hopeful and hopeless situations. Today, we each work jobs we love and enjoy life every day.
During our time as coworkers, we ignored a lot of warning signs, which eventually caused issues in our personal lives, affecting families and friends. Our work-life balance was out of whack, and we didn't even know it.
This podcast is all about recognizing potential issues
and advice on how to correct your course of life and work.
This is Work-Life Balance. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 4 of Work-Life Balance. We are today going to be talking about the negative physical effects of stress and of being in a bad work environment. I know that Michael and I dealt with a lot of the physical ailments, and we probably hear about this one more than anything else. I think these are like the easiest ones to see. Obviously, most people don't let physical ailments and issues go unchecked, but a lot of people don't realize that it's a sign of stress or that it's a sign of deeper issues. So before we get into that, I just want to say a quick shout out to everybody who's stuck with us so far. It's very exciting to do a show like this and see people genuinely interested.
And the feedback.
And giving us really quality feedback. We appreciate that more than you know. So even if you don't know us, if you just are listening to the show and you have stories or feedback, criticism, critiques about the show and about what we do, we would absolutely love to hear from you. Just email us at worklifebalanceshow@gmail.com. With that out of the way, Michael, let's go on into some of these physical effect warning signs of high-stress jobs that can be pretty detrimental if they go unchecked.
Yeah, and as we always try to, simplifying what we're talking about into a single sentence, feeling drained all the time with that quote, I'm just tired.
Oh, yeah, because, we've all said that.
I'm just tired. I don't, I wake up tired. I go to sleep tired. I get extra sleep on the weekend. I'm tired. Or people say, you look tired. If that's you, keep listening because there's more to tell. But, yeah, let's get into our first warning sign here. So this one's pretty interesting because at first glance, when you hear this, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. But if you really start to think about it, you're like, oh, wait, I probably have experienced this. Wanting to be sick to get out of work or working while you are sick, which sound a little opposite, but essentially you're seeking something that makes work more tolerable, or it doesn't matter where you physically are or mentally are, and you're still involved with work. So, and I know Panic has had some very unique situations with that. Even when your ankle, what did you break? And you had her in the hospital.
Yeah, so 2 years ago now. Whoa, no. 3 years ago.
It's been a little while.
My gosh, wow.
Getting old.
Yeah, I am. 3 years ago, I decided at my ripe old age of 23, almost 24, that I was going to get back into skateboarding. I used to skate a lot when I was maybe like a young teenager, and decided I really wanted to get back into it. I wanted something physical, and it was just really appealing to me again. And so bought a board, and me and my little brother started skating. And I think we'd been at it maybe like a month. And we decided one night that we would go out to the skate park when we were in a different city, and it was too dark, but we were out there, and you can pretty much put two and two together. I came down pretty hard, cracked one of my foot bones. I won't give you technical terms, but I broke it pretty clean in half, and so foot was broken, and I was in a boot for about a month before I had surgery. And then the surgery was just pretty rough, and they had me down for almost 2 months. So I went almost 3 months pretty limited in mobility, either on crutches or not being able to walk at all.
And we were in a prime time with work.
Yeah, it was a really bad time to go through something like that. And so I can't sit here and say that like I was being asked to work, but post surgery, I remember that I, could only stay awake for a few hours at a time before I was just super exhausted. All the medicine and everything was keeping me pretty tired. And I remember pretty distinctly a couple of times that I was, I'd wake up and I'd hobble my way. I was staying with my parents while I healed. I'd hobble to their kitchen table. I'd sit down. I'd work for a few hours. And then I would like pass out asleep because I was so tired. And that's what I did with my few waking hours a day post-op of having broken foot healed with surgery. And like, I can't, that is so sick and weird and wrong to me now. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say that like it wasn't my decision, but I felt the compulsion to do that. I felt like it was what I had to do.
You felt like you were, I don't say sacrificing yourself, but essentially it was no one else could do the job mentality.
Yeah.
And when we look back, actually, we did have other people there that could have done the job or at least tried.
Sure.
And not forced somebody who's stuck in a bed, who's Medicaid up, and we're asking him to code on his laptop and build these things.
Yeah.
Successfully, which sounds crazy.
It was kind of crazy.
But, that's just the reality that he faced. And I remember bits and pieces of that, and there was a lot of stress there because it's still like we were under deadlines and we only had this, and we had more than panic to do this, but he was it. And I felt horrible asking for stuff because I remember you would just, we didn't have Slack back then, but I remember there was emails and texts, and it would kind of go quiet for a while because you passed out.
Yeah, pretty much
from medication, and you're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I just woke up. Give me a couple minutes, I'll get back at it," and that's horrible.
Yeah,
and
looking back, it is like horrible. And I didn't really see it as that horrible at the time, but man, I just should have.
Yeah. Now, and I get it too. If you're that person, if you're that entrepreneur that's by yourself, I can kind of understand. But at the same time, you should have a client base that also understands that you're under physical distress and you have to heal a little bit before you're back on your feet again.
Yeah.
And obviously, life happens and we get that. So, if you're that person that has a big project that has a launch date, XYZ, and all of a sudden you're in a car wreck and you're stuck in a hospital and can't do anything, that sucks. I won't go around that. That's just terrible. I'm sure it's happened to people. It hasn't happened to us directly, but I'm sure that's been there. But that's an extreme case. Now, if you take the idea of, hey, I have the flu and I feel like crap for 3 days, I got to fight through it and just keep working. Not necessarily. Sure, if you want to answer emails or stuff like that, but don't come to the workplace. Mm-mm. You're going to affect other people, for one thing. Yeah. A good manager would send you home. Let's just be honest. A good manager say, you need to go home. You need to get rest. Come back. We have sick days in the company for a reason. Take advantage of them, and so forth. So keep that in mind. Don't feel like you have to go to work when you're sick, ever.
I'm just thinking back to that, and I'm like, what are sick days?
Yeah, what are sick days? We don't know what those were. They were just days that you worked at home. That was a sick day.
And that was another serious thing is, I'll admit to you now, and this kind of hurts me to even say, but like I've lied to you before, definitely. But I knew that you never fell for it. But there were definitely times where I was like, yeah, I'm feeling really sick today. And I wasn't feeling sick, man. I just couldn't drag myself to that office that day. I just couldn't do it. That's the other half of what we're talking about here is like, you just wish you were sick. Well, you can wish your way into sickness. It's the mind controls the body in that way. Like if you think and grow sick is a very real mantra for some people. You get the Cameron Frye syndrome from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's just always thought he was sick, and so he was always sick. And a lot of people do that just to avoid the terrors of going to work.
Yeah, I would even say. Like, okay, so for me, I'm the kid that was in school that had perfect attendance, never got sick, Yeah, that was me in school. In work, I'm not too far from it. Never took a day off per se. When I did get sick, it was like one day, and I'm just back at it, you know. And I didn't even go to the doctor. I just like, I'll get over it. I got a good immune system. I'll get over it. But there was a lot of times where I would just not be sick, but not be well either. It'd just be like this in between, like this just fog / never quite over it. And a lot of that's because I never took the time to properly rest.
Right.
I never just, and I'm not just saying sleep. I'm talking about like mentally rest, not think about, not school, but not think about work. Well, I was doing my MBA at the same time when I was working there. So, yeah, a little bit of both, but not worrying about what's going on that's really outside my control because I'm not at work because I need to rest. You know, it's amazing when you get, and that'll be another resolution we'll get into about rest and the properness of that. But yeah, I mean, I remember there were weeks where I would just not necessarily have a fever, but I would feel like crap for weeks and never really got better. And I never felt good. And I didn't know what to do with it. I just kind of dealt with it and I just accepted it. And that's the scary part. When you get to the point where you're accepting your physical situation, that is when there's a problem. Because, I mean, that's the thing because like I have back problems and accepting the pain, tolerating the pain isn't the right way. Mm-mm. No. Now, obviously, it's also not the right way to kill the pain with painkillers, which we'll get into that more later. But growing used to, oh, my back hurts, oh, my neck hurts, oh, my head hurts. When I eat, I feel uneasy when I eat. I've had a lot of that. I had so much stress, anxiety that my stomach would turn at any food I would eat. And I just thought it was just I wasn't eating good stuff or I wasn't eating properly, which there may be some of that. But ultimately, I didn't realize that till Panic and I were out of it. And like a week or two later, I would eat and like, oh, I don't have an upset stomach.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever experienced that directly.
I have some pretty bad, like, digestive issues anyway that I've been trying to deal with lately. Mm-hmm. But I can say for sure that I notice them now. So in my mind, that means that, yeah, I mean, it's obviously always been there, but it was so commonplace. There was never a break from it that it was just existence. It was just what I lived through. It's just what I was. And I didn't think much of it. Mm. And now that I am removed from it, I realize, oh, wow, I shouldn't feel like this. My stomach shouldn't kind of gurgle literally all the time. That's a problem. Yeah. And so I'm able to deal with it because I can see the difference, because it's not that way all the time now. So I guess, yeah, it is getting a little better. It's not just miraculously cured. But that's something I never would have seen that as a stress-based thing ever. And no. I mean, you hear the classic signs all the time, right? You hear like, gaining weight and losing desire to do the things you love and blah, blah, or losing weight unexpectedly, having no appetite, that kind of stuff. It's these subtle things that you have to just kind of experience or know somebody who's experienced that will just blindside you. And that's where we come with these like hidden warning signs are the things that like we never would have guessed. And so,
and go over 8 years, it just built over time.
Yeah.
And we grew tolerances of it. And as we all know, when you grow a tolerance of something, you don't know, your threshold changes and then it becomes the norm and you have no idea.
Like, just don't even think about it.
Like, just a simple thing. If you're having to take a painkiller or some type of stomach acid reducer on a regular basis, and the doctor, let's say you even go to the doctor, and there's nothing really wrong with you, but it's stress.
Yeah.
There's something, and it's probably workplace related, and you just don't know it. Like, I even talked to somebody a couple weeks ago, because we were talking about this idea of this podcast, and I was telling her about the physical effect episode that we were working on. And she said, yeah, I went to the doctor, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but, she was talking about, I forgot her exact physical effects, but basically the doctor just named off, what's your caffeine level, what's your alcohol level, what are you eating? And she's like, I've cut my caffeine. I drank hardly any alcohol, and I'm eating relatively healthy. She's like, must be stress.
Yeah.
And she said when the doctor just said that's the only thing that's causing whatever issue you're having right now, and it kind of blindsided her when the doctor told her that. So immediately, because she's an entrepreneur, she's a single owner. I think she has employees, but you know, it's a small business. And immediately she's like, okay. So she fired a couple of her clients the next week.
Wow.
Because she knew of certain clients that were the clients that were abusing her communication schedule, and were those clients that just sucked the life out of you. And so she's like, I gotta get rid of them. She got rid of them, and her health started to get better. And that's what we're talking about because you don't know this one. This one's pretty funny.
I love these moments.
I can't mention names, but I will say it was a advertisement magazine.
Uh-huh.
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
So, but I remember this. We took the project live, and something wasn't right. I don't remember what it was, but I remember physically she's on the phone with me, because at that point I was in a car, and I just had to pull over and park somewhere and talk to her, and I could feel, like, just think about this. I'm just on the phone with somebody. I could feel my head getting heavy, and then like my neck sinking.
Oh, jeez.
Just from the tension of what she's like saying to me, and in my back of my head, oh crap, this project just went sideways, and it's live, and and in their world we were under a time crunch because of submissions, and it was, in my eyes, terrifying. You know, small business, good. It was a paying account, and I didn't know what to do. I could feel my my head just getting heavy, and I just couldn't. It was I will never forget it because it kind of freaked me out. Just think about that for a second, literally, and that's something that you really have to think hard about, because I've always heard this. I was just listening to a person tell me their problems and complain. Good. Oh, sorry. I was listening to a person telling me their problems with the expectation that I or a company would fix, and I had so much anxiety against it that I literally felt my head and my neck getting heavy. But obviously that wasn't real. It was just my mental capacity was forcing that, which is kind of weird to think about. But there's probably been times where if you ever had something happen to you and your body just tightens up because you just don't know what to do with it, like a physical just like reaction to something, even though there's nothing actually happening to you, but it's just a mental thought. Like even the idea like you freeze up when you start thinking about stresses, or if something horrible happened, you don't know what to do. I feel like, Panic, you probably had plenty of those moments.
I think, well, because I'm pretty high strung. Big secret, right? So, like, I'm pretty high strung to begin with, and so it does hit me in very physical ways. And I think Michael is loosely hinting at one particular time that we had. I mean, nothing short of a tragedy. Our biggest client at the time, and absolutely the most neediest client. Client.
The one with lots of needs.
They had many needs. They were huge. I mean, don't get me wrong. They were a huge client, but they kind of everything was a crisis with them. And I think you guys probably know the kind of client we're talking about. But everything was a client. Everything was urgent.
Everything was a priority, which means nothing is a priority.
Exactly. And that's how they operated all the time. You know, it was the most important thing in the world. But then as soon as it was done and you told them, you wouldn't hear from them for, until the next crisis, quote unquote. So one fateful afternoon, this has been a couple years ago, I went to finish something up, and in saving a file,
I remember this.
something like, yeah, don't you laugh. This was the worst day of my life.
Oh, it was terrible because I was in a remote area with no internet.
So I guess my internet was kind of shoddy. I know I was at, I think it was at my girlfriend's apartment, and she had pretty bad internet, and I was working there. And I went to save a file and something interrupted my connection. I didn't know it. I kind of just like, okay, everything's cool. One final save and I'm done for the week. This is a Friday afternoon. And she and I are getting ready to head out somewhere. I don't remember where we're going, but I know we were like leaving for a minute. So saved it, get in the car, and it had already been kind of a bad day. And then as I get down the road, I get like 3 texts and the phone call, and something had happened when I saved that file. It had corrupted.
It erased everything.
It erased everything. And it was a huge file for you techie people. It was like the main CSS file of the whole site. And we were not using any kind of like nice build systems or anything. No version control, no deployments. I mean, this was the only copy of that file. And now it's gone completely. Every line of it wiped clean, 0 bytes, nothing. And I don't remember how the phone call went down, but like I remember I just didn't know what to do. I'm also in the car. I'm driving. I don't know what to do. I just kind of was like stopped not in an intersection, but like kind of in the middle of the road and just like absolutely having a panic attack, coming apart. And while that is a pretty major situation, in that moment, I was made to feel like I had ended the whole world. As if there was no coming back from this. And there was no offer of, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to fix this problem? It was, you are going to fix this because the world is over until you do.
Yeah, I remember. And because at this point, I was in an area that didn't have very good internet. And so my phone was working in terms of texts and phone calls. And I'm with a new client. And we're just having a conversation. And so my default mode is that when I'm having a meeting with a client, I simply I turn my phone on silent so I can listen and talk to them, not get distracted. And so I remember I'm a car guy, and the client was a car guy. And I was like, yeah, you want to drive my car? It'd be fun. So here I am. The client's driving my car, and I look down at my phone, and it's like text, voicemail, missed call. I mean, all this was within like a 5-minute period. I was like, holy crap, the world has ended. Panic and I, even though we were 100 miles apart from each other at that moment, we were having the same reaction.
Yep.
And we were both having I can't do anything. I don't know what to do. My life's over reaction. And so, but I remember when I finally, I was like, yeah, just drive the car. And I'm then staring at my phone while he says driving my car. And it was like this most torturous thing because I'm trying to enjoy the idea of like, hey, we're riding around the car. And then my life is ending for some reason on my phone. And I was like, oh my gosh. And, but I remember like, it was so funny. Like I remember Panic saying, I don't know what to do. I said, well, I think there's a way we can pull a backup file and get it and we'll be okay. But show me what the problem is first. And I remember opening up my laptop and I'm like, well, it looks fine. He's like, no, it doesn't. I said, no, it looks fine. And I had miraculously had a cached version of that site because my internet wasn't connecting.
And I realized it. I said, Michael, do not refresh the page. Literally, whatever
go
you do, do not refresh
control,
the page.
Yeah, copy all, paste, send it to me right now.
To be right out. And he did. And oh my gosh. I mean, you want to talk about like some triumphant moment. God, I can't believe we saved that.
Yeah,
that could have been bad.
So that's a very unique techie situation that we went through, but less about the details of this problem, but more about that pit in your stomach that happened.
I could feel it just telling that story. Because, I mean, I'll tell you what happened. Like, I freaked out, and then I, like, screamed. And
I distinctly remember I was trying to talk to you on the phone, and you couldn't respond to me. You were out of it.
I remember just being in a daze, like, Peyton...
You're like,
Peyton told me to get in the seat, like told me to get in the passenger seat and like drove us, like we just turned around, went back to her apartment, and she was like, just sit here. I'm going to go handle everything. Just sit here and do what you got to do. And then just go away from your computer. And like, I did, we worked through it, but yeah, I remember just going so comatose. Again, it was like Cameron Frye's moment at the end of Ferris Bueller's Day Off when he realizes that the miles aren't,
on the Ferrari
going down on the Ferrari.
And it shoots off in the woods. And
No, before that. When he realizes that the miles aren't coming off and that his dad is going to find out what happened. And I had that just total freak out, comatose, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. If there's a swimming pool, I probably would have fallen in it. And yeah, I mean, it did feel like I had just pushed Dad's Ferrari off the cliff, because it's like this. It feels like there's no coming back from this. And basically, there is no work situation that is like the end of your life. Now, you can do some very bad things and lose your career. I'm not going to pretend like it's not.
You can screw up, get fired, or a client fires you and you lose a bunch of money and then you get fired later. Now, the obvious exception is like if you're a doctor and you kill somebody, that's an obvious problem. Or if you're a skydiver and you don't do something right and you die from that. But those are high extremes. And we know those are the extremities that you just don't talk about really. But what we were talking about is the common person that's working a job that's probably indoors, that involves a computer, that involves talking to people or emailing people or dealing with levels of people on a daily basis.
Right.
Yeah. So there is no like end of world, your life is over situations.
You'll probably be okay.
The next day will come.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be stressful and painful? Maybe. But there's probably resolution. There's probably a problem to be fixed, and you're fine. Just keep the next day will come. Just remember that the next day is coming, and you'll have time. Obviously, if you're a poor planner and it comes and bites you, that's one thing. But it's not like if we played that situation out, worst thing that could have happened is that we would have pulled a week old backup. And it would have been down per se, or the project would have been on hold for a couple hours max. But it was a Friday afternoon, and nobody cares on a Friday afternoon, honestly.
We do because we're trying to get home, but
reality is most people take your traffic patterns when you're driving home. Traffic gets really heavy on 12 o'clock on a Friday.
Yeah.
Why is that? Doesn't happen on a Monday.
Everybody is clocked out.
Yeah, people start checking out real quick. But
so basically, I mean, and the other thing is when you let yourself get into those stressful of situations, that stressful of a situation, you do damage to your body. Yeah. Don't forget that. Don't let that stress you out more in the moment. But do remember that, like, it is not good for your heart to work that hard. It's not, especially all the time. But I mean, even in those bursts, you can damage yourself. And guys, the older y'all are, it just gets worse and worse and worse. I mean, the possibility of a heart attack becomes very real the older you get. And so, I know I'm pretty young and I don't have to worry about that as much. But honestly, I'll say this. There have been a couple of times where I have that was actually one of them. I've felt so stressed or angry or heated that, like, I do feel a tightness in my chest. I do feel that.
Or you just feel your heart beating.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, just like a painful pain in my chest. Nothing like a heart attack, but like this is lightly what they describe a heart attack being like. And it'll freak you out. It will freak you out big time because you realize that you can actually scare yourself to death. You can. Please just be careful. And if that's happening often, you need to figure something out. And the answer to that, and we're going to go on to the next one, the answer to that is not painkillers. The answer to that is not more medicine. I promise you. I promise you that if your doctor prescribes you a reasonable level of medicine to help with your stress, anxiety, and situations like that, I'm sure he has a good reason. I'm sure he thinks he's doing the right thing. But I'm not going to call anybody out, but somebody near and dear to me used to be completely addicted to like low grade over the counter painkillers, like ibuprofen. Would take 4 to 5 ibuprofen per day, and never saw it as like an addiction or as like a compulsion.
And they didn't really have a physical ailment.
Not really, but they always had these headaches. always had these little headaches. And of course,
fun fact, you're not supposed to have headaches.
Ever. Yeah. That's absolutely right. That's a weird, like, evolutionary development. But yeah, probably your great grandfather never had a headache a single time in his whole life.
Or one headache a month, or like one headache a year. But in general, a headache is just something you're not supposed to have. There's other things that are going on that's creating that.
Mm-hmm.
And just remember, painkillers just cover it up.
Sure.
They don't fix anything.
It just masks it for a little bit.
It.
So like ibuprofen, what ibuprofen does is it thins your blood out a little bit. Makes it flow a little easier so the tension releases. That's all it does. It's a very low grade. And I mean, if anybody out there knows that I'm wrong, this is just information I've operated off of for a long time. I know that it is a blood thinner, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty much all it really, really does down at its core. So, yeah, I mean, if you feel the need to take these kind of like, what else do we have here? If you feel the need to take like ibuprofen or aspirin or Tylenol or whatever all the time, and it's just a compulsive thing, and you just have these little headaches all the time, there is something else going on.
Well, and I had like a domino effect. So I'm the type where I don't take anything. You know, that mentality is if I'm taking something, I must be in some pain or something. And my stresses and everything that I was having was causing me a lot of neck pain. And I would occasionally take a painkiller because it just got, like, I would wake up with neck pain, go to bed with neck pain. I never escaped it. And if anybody has ever had neck pain, they understand, like, that constant dull pain that just doesn't go away.
It's awful.
It's awful. And I'd take some painkillers and it would feel a little better. But I remember there was a moment where I was taking, like, for me, if I was taking once a month, like, okay, I'm not even going to think about that. But I remember there was a couple of times where I was taking, like, every couple of days. And I was like, okay, this is getting kind of weird. I remember there were a couple of days I was just straight. Each day I was taking painkillers. I was like, this isn't right. This is wrong. This is not good. This shouldn't be happening. And I really thought it was, I was just sleeping wrong. Or I was staring at the screen tilted all the time, which there's some truth to that.
Oh, yeah.
But
ergonomics. I mean, I could have a whole episode just on ergonomics.
Ergonomics is a real thing. You know, your screen, if you staring at your screen all day causes your eyes to strain, which can cause a headache and cause other things. I mean, I understand that, but I legitimately was like, this is kind of odd for me. And then when I left, it went away. And I'm in a job now where I have a similar, in terms of like work environment, where I stare at a screen, I'm on the phone, I have a standing desk because I'm cool. But my neck pain's not coming back.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that's technically changed per se, is that I'm in a new work environment.
That's because your neck pain wasn't physical.
No.
Man, it was stress.
I was tension, just pure tension. And it was all mental driven. Like, it wasn't, someone didn't have something hanging around my neck. You know, someone didn't replace my pillow with a brick. You know, it was all in my head, driving me crazy. And and you can relate to this. I felt like I had no escape.
Yeah.
At all. And my body was reacting to that.
And it's crazy when the mental sensations and the physical sensations collide, because you're right. You feel like you have absolutely no escape from the physical pain, and you feel like you have no escape from the mental pain, and the physical reminds you that you're not escaping from the mental, and the mental drives the physical, and it is a totally vicious cycle that they just like domino and then just snowball to.
Because then when you think, oh, I can conquer the physical by eating better, exercise more, stretch, go to a chiropractor, but then when it comes right back, it just breaks you down more, because you're like, well, that didn't work. Now I got to do this, and it's still not working. What's going on? Why is my body breaking apart? I'm not even 30 years old yet.
Yeah.
What has happened to me? And it just eats you alive. And just messes with you. And Panic and I experienced a lot of that. And we just kind of fought through the pain. You know, you all have heard that. Just fight through the pain. It'll be fine.
Terrible advice. Literally, the worst advice that anybody can ever give you is fight through the pain. If you, I mean, let me just take a wild guess. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to take a wild guess. You know who probably tells you to fight through the pain? Your high school football coach. You know what Nick Saban probably says? Get off the field. Because a damaged player is useless. No. So fighting through that pain. For those of you who don't know, Nick Saban is a football coach, American football coach, who's arguably one of the greatest coaches in.
Pretty amazing.
Probably is the greatest football coach
an amazing
in college
leader.
Football history.
Yeah.
Just an amazing leader, and I don't even like football, but I really respect him from a leadership perspective. And I would have to imagine he understands the value. I would imagine any good coach understands the value that, you don't want to just push through the pain and fight through it because you're just damaging yourself. So if you get hurt, you shouldn't just play ball through the pain. You shouldn't just work through the pain because you're going to cause lasting damage. It's better to tap out early and admit that there's something wrong before you just permanently damage yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all you're going to perform. The thing about it, you're always going to perform at your best when you're well rested, with no pain, and you're not distracted by the pain. That's important to think about. So, and we all know this. You could take like a car example. If you don't maintain your car over time, it eventually will break, and it will break at the worst time.
Oh yeah.
Or I'm a car guy. You get used to the issues with the car until it becomes really bad. Just FYI, if you hit your brakes in your car and your steering wheel is shaking, you have a brake issue. And it only gets worse with time, and it could result in a lot of bad problems.
Guess who is currently ignoring his steering wheel shake?
Yes.
It's me.
Yeah, so you have warped rotors.
I know.
And that means your braking's getting worse. Anyway, side note, but
let me actually I want to stay on that for 1 second because I'm glad you brought that up. My dad is the best Paul Panic term ever. He calls it paying stupid tax.
Yes.
Is my favorite thing. Paying stupid tax. Because it's like, I know it's a problem. I'll deal with it later. And then it costs you so much more than if you just fix it now and just pay the money now. But the problem is stupid taxes like that with a car, with something around the house, those stupid taxes are not so bad. Yeah, maybe it costs you another $1,000. Something crazy happened. Maybe even something bad happens. You ignored a problem in your fridge, and then starts a leak, or it burns down the house, or some crazy stuff. Right? That's but that's just physical stuff. When you pay when you pay stupid tax on your physical well-being,
it affects everything.
It's not. It's never. You can't pay the taxes enough to bring it all the way back. You can't buy youth. You can't buy your years back. And when you have to start paying, me and my foot. I hate to admit this, but I thought it was totally fine and smart to skateboard in the dark at 23 years old. And the stupid tax I pay is that I still have a scar on my foot. Which is not that big, but my foot still randomly just starts hurting like crazy. And I love to take long walks. And for a while, I thought I was never going to be able to do that again. It recovered eventually, but there are still times, it happened 2 weeks ago, it just starts hurting so bad I can't even stand to walk around. It just tenses up and it's tight. And, I really regret what I did to myself. But again, I paid the stupid tax. I was down for a few months. I learned some lessons. It ended up pretty good for me overall. But I will never, ever have my nice, fresh, unbroken foot ever again. So stupid tax on physical ailments, that's it's a price that is not worth paying.
And then from a strict work performance thing, you may not be as productive as you used to be.
Oh, yeah.
And you're fighting it. You're trying to be more productive. Why am I not as productive as I used to be? Or why is this harder than I remember? Or why is this so daunting all of a sudden? It's because you're tired.
Definitely.
Your physical body is having issues and you're ignoring them. You're not going to the doctor. You're not actually evaluating what's going on. You're just ignoring it. And that kind of rolls into some other stuff. Whenever we're talking about the painkillers, and the warning signs. One thing here, though, we have is always looking down, and there's that additional neck pain. So I mentioned neck pain a couple times, but the always looking down part is fascinating to me because I've learned that if you find somebody that's, because I had this issue when I was in like high school, you look down. I look down a lot. Like I would walk the hallways looking down.
You're a shoegazer.
Yes, yeah, that's pretty good. I was a shoegazer, and so apparently that's associated a little bit with depression and some other things. But you'll find people like take that person that you can think of immediately right now. That's that always energetic, always happy. Have you ever seen them look down, don't smile, and they say, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And they just keep moving, right? They have a canned answer and they just keep moving. Doesn't seem right, does it? Just seems like there's something wrong, something's not right. They're probably stressed. Yep. There's probably something stressful happening and it's affecting them. So if you have any coworkers in your building right now and it looks like they're always looking down or woe is me, they never have anything good to say in the sense of, how are you? I'm okay. And they just leave it at that. Which we have a huge problem with that in the South. How are you? I'm fine. I know I'm not fine. I'm just telling you that I'm fine because I don't want to talk to you. I mean, that's what's happening.
It's just the canned, necessary response of, I'm fine. I'm just fine.
Doing good.
Just doing fine.
Bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
but no. So when you have those coworkers that are in that position where they just seem sad, there's something going on there. Some stress is going on there. And if you're that person where you just don't feel excited about anything, which I realize that there are some personalities there that reflect that I have a little bit of that problem where I'm not a high or a low person. I'm just kind of a middle person about most things. But I just know, and here's the true story behind why we want to talk about this so much. When Panic and I left, the people that were very close to us, that may have not seen us for a couple of days after it happened, when they saw us, they were like, I've never seen you this relaxed before. I've never seen you smile before. this much smiling. Or your voice sounds different. That's scary.
It was really scary when you said to me, I mean, and you've heard me yap more over the past 4, 5, 6 years than anybody.
Oh, yeah.
And you were like, we went probably a week without talking.
Yeah, we were just in our...
We'd been texting, and then I called you, and you were just like, you don't even sound like yourself.
Like there was literally like a different pitch to your voice, and it was, I would say higher, but just not drawn out. There wasn't that misery tone behind it. It was really kind of and then I think you said the same thing to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were just kind of shocked, like, oh yeah, you sound a little just happier, right?
And it's amazing how the entire way that your body operates and presents itself can be so dictated by those stressors. Everything from the way, like you said, you carry yourself, you keep your shoulders hunched forward and your neck down, and you don't smile, and you lower tone of voice, less inflected, drawn out, whatever, can all be signs of immense stress. I mean, you see these things a lot in people, and the other ones are maybe more obvious. You hear this a lot, like the baggy eyes, bags under the eyes, skin, losing color, just looking really pale, sickly, gaining or losing weight. And Michael and I dealt with all of those. I'll say this: I went through a pretty vain moment where I was really upset that I was starting to see bags under my eyes, and one thing I did at the time that was just a good move and it helped me a lot, but I read that if you just cut salt out of your diet, don't add salt to anything, it can help a ton. Well, it helped some, but it was gone within 3. I didn't have bags under my eyes within 3 days of leaving that job.
No, it was still to that point where, because when we left, it was very abrupt, and we were in different cities when it all happened. And so we we weren't in the same room when it happened. So we didn't see each other for a few days. And when we finally had a chance to get back together just to kind of play catch up and basically get each person's story of how everything happened, we were both looking at each other like, you look different. You look better. You look healthier. But it's only been a couple of days. That's not supposed to be like, you can't physically change yourself that quickly. But apparently if your mental state is that much better, your body reacts to it.
You're sleeping better, you're getting better rest, and your body reacts in those ways. But I mean, I believe after seeing what we both went through, I believe that your mind controls your body so much more than people want to think. To where, yeah, it wasn't just he's getting better rest, so his body's repairing itself better. I think it was just a deeper, immediately you have better color in your face and less bags and healthier looking hair. That's another one. So I have pretty gray hair, and
it came in like a flash.
Yeah, I mean, it started when I was a freshman in college. I think on the show I've explained that my freshman year, I was a music major. I was taking way too many hours. I was pledging a fraternity. I was working part-time here. Actually took on a second job as a pianist at a church, which was once a week. But I mean, I had a lot going on.
Yeah, you were stretched thin.
I was stretched real thin at the time. It was just it was really messy. And that was when my hair started going gray. But over the last couple of years, it was just intensifying. And I had come from a family where we go gray pretty early. But it was getting so intense where every time I get a haircut, it was noticeable shades grayer every time.
I remember.
And it was just coming in like paint swatches every time. And I got a haircut today. Michael, does it look any grayer at all?
No. I mean, it's kind of, I know you and I talked when we first were discussing this podcast, and we made the joke when we were discussing this episode about how your hair reverted a little bit. Like some of the gray went away.
Yeah.
And now I have a beard, and some of my gray in my beard went away.
Yeah, you used to have that little patch right there. I'm looking at it right now. It's not really there. I mean, I see it a little bit.
But it's
not like white and gray anymore. It's crazy to me that your hair can change colors based on stress. We're like some weird rainforest animals that change our appearance when we're stressed, you know? That's where we're at. And
now we can't say that if you de-stress, all your gray hair will go away.
Yeah. That's
sorry,
not
but
sorry. Stupid tax, right? It's not coming back.
Yeah. But if you're in this situation where you've grayed randomly and just suddenly look at your stress life, see where it sits, once again, our bodies tell us when there's a problem, but we openly ignore a lot. Or there is a solution or anything that just says, "Oh yeah, this will fix the problem for you," or this will cover it up. I mean, think about it this way: 90% of the medications that's probably in your pantry right now, or wherever you keep your medicines, didn't exist 50 or 75 years ago. Because they're just cover-ups.
Yeah.
They're not like these magical ailments that fix things. It's just it all gets fixed. No,
cover up to a modern solution, to a modern problem.
Yeah. It's just their cover-ups. And a lot of these problems are coming because we're forced with information that's just forced on us, and we can't escape it. And we're supposed to be always connected. And being always connected doesn't let you to be alone and be alone in your thoughts. I remember hearing and seeing how listening, this world that we're in where we have to have a sound at all times or we freak out. So take that idea. So next time you want to be with your own thoughts, try turning off everything.
No music.
No
fans.
No.
Nothing.
Don't sit in the car running. No podcast going. Nothing. See how long you can handle that. It'll freak you out. And it's because we've trained ourselves to ignore, we're trying to cover up things. Mm-hmm. We're trying to fuzz out our thoughts so we don't sit there and have anxiety the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've listened to a lot of recent things about how we're just trying to hide from stuff. So we just plug something earbuds go into our ears, and we hear nothing but what's coming out of those earbuds, and we can't think because our mind can't sit there and create its own thoughts. It's just downloading and digesting what's being sent to the ear.
Right. It's just killing off one of your senses, so it's less to take in.
Yep.
Real quick, I want to throw out two more. two more side effects that I think get overlooked a lot that I have dealt with a ton are acid reflux and heartburn. When I was in high school, I first started having, I thought I was having like heart problems. Turns out it was just really bad acid reflux, and it was just due to stress. And then blood sugar issues. I also discovered that I have hypoglycemia as a response to. I have hypoglycemia. I discovered it in a response to a very stressful situation where I just completely passed out because your stress level can really screw with your blood sugar levels, and it caused me to bite it. And so it was good to learn that I had that and learn to start dealing with it. But if your sugar is up and down and you're starting to have, you're starting to feel woozy more often, even after you eat, even when you're eating good, if you are having a lot more heartburn, even though you're eating good, those kind of things can be signs of stress. Don't overlook them. I got one little factoid here to share with you guys.
Resolutions.
Yeah, before we get into some resolutions, this comes from an article from Inc.com. I love their stuff. I read it. They're very digestible. I read them all the time. And I will share a link to this article and also the study that it references. But it says, this is an article called The 7 Habits of Astonishingly Weak Leaders and How Not to Be One. And number 3 is that they are secretive. And I thought this was crazy when I read this morning. In one longitudinal study of 3,100 men over a 10-year period, researchers found that a worker's risks for angina, heart attacks, and even death rose along with having worked for controlling bosses who hoarded or withheld information. The survey statement, "My boss gives me the information I need," when answered in the negative, was the most predictive of serious cardiovascular risk. So there's a immediate correlation between your boss adding those stresses, keeping secrets from you, keeping you in those kind of situations.
Keeping you in the dark.
And
you're just waiting for when they pounce.
Yeah.
Or when they just show up with a problem they didn't tell you about.
Or that they just created.
Or they created and just expect you to fix it. Because that's a real thing. Or just that reality of someone... I've heard this before, and it drives me batty, but they were waiting until you failed completely and then came in as a hero with the answers.
Oh, don't even get me started.
I'm going to cut to the chase real quick. A good manager doesn't watch you fail completely. They'll let you fail in a controlled environment and watch you get out of it, but they're not going to let you fail so much you're having to quit because there's no coming back.
They're not going to let you fail so they can play hero. They're going to let you fail enough so that you learn a lesson.
Yeah.
Right. And if they're letting you fail all the time, there's studies, there's research that shows that you are more likely to have lasting heart issues, cardiovascular issues as a result. So with all that in mind, with a lot of little strange looks at warning signs into stresses that you may not have recognized, you may not think of off the top of your head, let's go into some resolutions. And as always, these resolutions are things that we've seen work for us, work for other people. If you have thoughts and ideas about other ways to tackle some of these physical effects and other ways to combat the stress and to reverse some of the physical effects, we'd love to hear from you. Of course, you can just email us or give us a shout on Anchor. Michael, give us our first resolution.
All right, this one's kind of funny because you're going to laugh, but take time to eat lunch.
Notice that I'm not laughing. This is mine. I'm huge on this.
And there was an article about how the millennials killed the lunch break.
Oh, yeah. We killed it.
Yeah, we killed the lunch break. No,
it wasn't killed for us by controlling managers
that expect us to work all the time. But we killed the lunch break. So reason why we say take time to eat lunch, there's a reason why you need a break during the day. You need to reset. And when we say eat lunch, don't sit there in front of your computer with your work up or anything, honestly, because anything that you do on that computer is going to be associated with work, even if it's watching a YouTube video.
You're still going to get those Slack notifications, your email pop up.
Or you're going to feel obligated to respond. If you have an hour lunch break built into your schedule,
use it.
Take it. Take the full hour. It's not counting against you. You're going to have coworkers stare at you for leaving the building.
Get over it.
Who cares? It's there. They're not hiring and firing you.
Nope. I mean, I go home for lunch.
Yeah, you're close enough. You can go home.
I was really fortunate that I moved into the place where we record is my apartment, and
which is nicely located to everything.
Yeah, it's really conveniently located, and we didn't have our office at the last job before I moved here, but we found a really great office space just like 5 minutes from this place. So I was 5 minutes from work, 5 minutes from home is great. My new job is right downtown, so I'm only like 10 minutes tops. Yeah. And even though that's 10 minutes, if you get in the car and go to a restaurant and have to drive, most of the time you're driving 10 minutes anyway. I go home, I save a little money, but also I come home and I make a sandwich, and then I just like lay on the couch and stare at the ceiling. And it's great, man. It's so good to have that break. Sometimes I'll come home and take a walk, but it's so nice to have a real break, not a hop in your car, run to Taco Bell, check your emails while you're in the drive-thru, scramble back.
And scarf your food down.
At your desk.
Yeah.
That's not a lunch break. That is going to keep you stressed. It's going to make you more stressed. It's going to keep you working.
Here's a quick test. If you don't think you're doing that, look at the floor below your desk. How many crumbs you got down there? Because your office cleaners are not probably getting under your desk.
Nope.
But there's probably crumbs. If you see a lot of crumbs, you're like, oh, I eat at my desk more than I think. You really shouldn't eat at your desk. I mean,
that's a good tip.
Just don't eat at your desk. Like for me, what I do, mine's a little different. So I usually bring my lunch with me, and I will like eat it at my desk per se, but I eat it quickly and I go take a walk and just mind dump. I don't think about anything. Just get out of the office, but I don't go far. I don't go to a stressful situation. I literally walk this sounds dumb, but I walk the parking lot, or I go that way. I have an outdoor seating area. I'll take a seat and just stare out in the view and just not think about anything. Take my phone, put it on silent, just so I can keep up with time but not be interrupted.
Right. The world can wait.
Yeah.
Other half of that is between lunch or between like getting there and going to lunch and coming back and going home. You need to be up and down. And so I used to be terrible about like I would seriously I had to kind of overhaul my work ergonomics at one point, and I realized that I was sitting down literally all day. Probably the worst desk time I spent. I was coming in every morning, drinking a whole pot of. I'd come in every morning at like 8 o'clock, drink a whole pot of coffee, sit down until noon, get up, go get fast food lunch, come back, make another pot of coffee, scarf it down, and work until like 6 o'clock. And I never stood up through any of that. And it was a bad desk and a cheap chair, and I was too low, and I had back pain literally all the time, okay? Absolutely, literally all the time. And then I realized, okay, it's because of how I sit and all this stuff, and the desk ergonomics and thinking about how I work fixed it. But the most healthy, most important, most beneficial, I can't stress this enough, please do this for yourself thing I have ever done ever in my entire life, I got a tumbler. It was actually one of our old clients gave us as kind of an onboarding gift, a metal tumbler. And I took it, and what I do, and I started doing this kind of while we worked together, but I'm real diligent about it now. Now that we have like a nice water cooler fountain thing, I fill it up with water when I first get in the office. I go and I make my coffee and I fill that up with water. And when it's done, when I've drunk the whole thing, I get up and I go to the water fountain and I fill it up and I come back. And then when it's done, I get up and I go to the water fountain, I fill it up, and I come back.
That's
and
pretty
good. That way I'm drinking water all day, and you're getting up and walking around a little bit all the time. And it is amazing how much faster it makes the workday feel, how much more productive I feel, how physically better I feel. I can't stress that one enough. You should always have some water on your desk, and when it runs dry, go get more.
Yeah.
It keeps you on task.
It's a dual purpose too, because you're forcing you to physically get up and move around, and then you're forcing yourself to drink more water.
Because the water is huge. I have a friend who loves to say "hydrate" or "dihydrate." It's like one of my favorite sayings because it's the truth. We are like mostly water. Humans are water sacks, and we need water.
And we die without water.
We absolutely will. But so most of those little headaches that you have, fix it with water. Yeah. Don't take a painkiller. Fix it with water. The little aches, the little pains, the little headaches, whatever, Drink some more water. You'll probably feel better. Are you feeling really hot? Do you feel flushed? Don't fire off an email and be like, can we get the air turned down? Go drink some water. Your body temperature will lower. You'll feel more relaxed. You'll feel better. Just drink more water.
General rule of thumb, if you drink a can of Coke, you better drink the equal amount in water. That's just that's a simple rule to follow.
Yeah.
Like if you're drinking 5 cans of soda a day, that's not good.
Even if they're diet.
Yeah, diet's worse, really.
It can be worse. Yeah. And there's still a lot of sodium. There's still a lot of stuff going on there. Drink more water. Hydrate or dihydrate.
Hydrate or dihydrate.
Hydrate or dihydrate, yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's that simple. What else we got?
So we had take time to actually eat your lunch and don't look at your phone. Maybe go talk to somebody that's unrelated to work. How about that? And then drink lots of water. And then the other thing we've touched on the warning signs a good bit was be aware of your medications, be aware of what you're taking. If you're all of a sudden taking painkillers, over the counter painkillers, ask yourself why. Mm-hmm. And then kind of go back to the core reason why it's even happening. If you're having a lot of pain and they can't associate it with an injury or an actual sickness, ask yourself why that's happening. Just plain and simple. But the next one here, so we've talked just a hair about, but reality is your sleep is extremely important. If you can't operate off of 4 hours of sleep a night. If you do, and you're awesome and energetic all the time, you're the weirdo.
Actually, that is a genetic predisposition.
Yeah.
I learned that it is actually possible. Some people do need a lot less sleep.
I knew one person that could do that, but 99% of you guys out there, no.
Yeah, I think it literally is 1% of people have. I wish I could think of the name of it, but 1% of people have this thing where they need only like 4 to 5 hours of sleep to operate.
And they're fine.
Most functional. And I actually kind of verge on that. I've done a lot of sleep studies. Sleep is super important to me because I've never slept well even since I was a baby. And so I do have a thing where like I have a tendency to, my body wants to oversleep, but then I feel worse. Mm-hmm. But yeah, focusing on your sleep is so important. And
you can't catch up your sleep.
No. Mm-mm.
Don't fool yourself.
It's a lie.
I'm going to sleep an extra 5 or 6 hours on Saturday and I'll be fine. No,
you're complete lie.
Your body's not built for that. And then you're just robbing yourself and really just fooling yourself. You really should be. You sleep every night, most nights at least. You should really take your time and analyze how much sleep do you really need where you feel good. Not just you're awake and working, but you feel good waking up and you feel good going to sleep. You're not fighting the sleep the whole time. So for me, I've learned that 7 hours is my like sweet spot. 6 hours, I feel a little groggy. 8 or 9, I feel like I'm just tired when I wake up. Like I've had too much sleep and it doesn't seem to work right for me. But 7 hours is like my magic number for me. It's different for everybody. They say get 8 hours of sleep a night. That's just an average. Everybody varies a little bit off of it. But no, getting proper sleep. Because how can you perform and be good and solve problems when you deprive yourself of sleep? Because that's like the core. That's your rest, and you're not allowing your body to rest at all. And you need to take advantage. Because I distinctly remember. This sounds terrible, but there were some times where I was so stressed that I just didn't really want the next day to come. So to make that extend seem longer, I would stay up later and wake up. Just try to avoid sleeping because, as we know, when we sleep, that 7 hours goes by in a split second. And I was trying to avoid that because the next day was coming. The next problem that we couldn't seem to solve was coming. And I was trying to extend my day, which sounds awful, but that's what was going on. But anyway, so let's tie in some simple things you can do with sleep. So first off, let's be more specific about how many hours of sleep you really need to get. Don't cheat yourself. Next is, now this is a big one. Don't use your phone as an alarm, which I'm staring at Panic right now because he still suffers a little bit from that.
Yes, I still use my phone as my alarm. And let me tell you what it does bad. It means that I wake up. It works. It's an effective alarm.
It wakes you up.
I also use light therapy, so I have some smart bulbs that I use that blast me awake, but I've become pretty immune to those. So it really takes like several alarms and a lot of light and a lot of stuff to get me up in the morning. But here's what happens. It goes off, I go get it, I cut it off, I go back to bed, and I lay on my phone and I browse Reddit for an hour. That's it. It's terrible.
You pretty much browse till your eyes start to feel tired from browsing. And then you're like, oh, I need to get up. And all of a sudden you're in this fog. And then the worst thing too, the reason, for my personal opinion, using your phone as an alarm, like probably your phone is connected to your work, and you probably haven't turned off your email notifications.
Probably not.
Or your Slack notifications or any type of notification. And that alarm goes off and you look at your phone because you got to turn it off.
And there they are.
And there are those little icons that popped up and you're like, huh. And you scroll down your drawer there and you're like, oh. And then all of a sudden you're engaged and you haven't even woken up yet.
Okay, I'm making a resolution. Before we record our next episode, I'm gonna go to Walmart. I'm gonna buy the cheapest alarm clock that I can find, and I'm gonna tell you guys how much it costs because I feel like it'll probably cost like $4.
Yeah,
for a
like one of those like red LED.
Yes, exactly. And I'm gonna buy one, and I'm gonna start using it, and I'm gonna keep my phone somewhere else.
So what
downstairs.
I do, I have an alarm that's a radio. So it just turns on a radio station that plays music. And it's good, easygoing music, and it's not a talk show that gets my mind like aggravated. They say something stupid, you know. Anyway, but the main thing I do is I actually I charge my phone in a different room in the house.
Yeah.
So
smart.
When it's bedtime per se, and you need to define a bedtime for yourself. Start working on that now and start figuring that out. But for me, my bedtime is usually like that 10:30, 11 o'clock. And so when that time gets near, my phone plugs into a charger. I turn it on its face. I put it on silent, and I don't look at it until I am leaving to go out the door the next morning. Like, it's not my alarm. It's not the first thing I look at when I wake up. It's literally the last thing I look at before I am getting to leave the house.
Yeah.
Because I know deep down where my schedule sits, and I don't have like true the world is dying emergencies. And if they are emergencies, I can get it fixed by around the 8:30 mark when I'm in work mode.
Right.
So
that's just a level I want to get to. I'm tired of I want to wake up and make myself a cup of coffee and sit on the couch and read a book and enjoy the morning and not spend it laying in bed on my phone. That's where I want to be. It's stupid for me to not do that.
For me, I try to schedule devotional time, quiet time in the morning because it's sort of the least amount of distraction going to happen. It's funny if you're not a morning person. Try just a couple times. I wake up at 5:30, and which sounds early to some. Maybe I'm not that 4 o'clock person that rocks the world. Don't get me started.
Yeah, neither is Jeff Bezos or a lot of people. There's a whole article about people who wake up after 9 every day.
Oh,
and it's most of the billionaires in the world wake up after 9.
Yeah,
you're doing fine.
Yeah,
Mark Zuckerberg wakes up at 10 because he's actually still 18 years old. So. You're doing okay. Don't worry about that.
But no, I'm a 5:30 person, and I like it just because I know there's no one that I am working with or client-wise or anything that's going to sit there and bug me at 6 a.m.
Right.
And they shouldn't. Now,
they better not.
Now, and this is assuming you work like an 8 to 5 type job. Now, if you're a night shift person, that's a different story. But reality is, if you're an 8 to 5 person or 9 to 5, there's a lot of peace in the morning. Mm-hmm. It's very quiet. It's very concentrated. You can just sit there and just get lost in your thoughts, which is really nice. And you can think about things that aren't work related. Think about your family. Think about your friends. Think about life things that are going on. Think about what you want to be doing next in your life. And it's so relaxing to do that. And I'm not talking spend an hour doing that. You may take 10 minutes and just take some deep breaths and just kind of think in a positive light of what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's why this idea of a phone does not need to be your alarm, because you can't get to that point if you're having to look at something to disable it, and it has everything else that's going on.
Right.
Because I've had things where I just had a friend text me 11 o'clock at night while I'm asleep, and I look at my phone at 5 or 6 a.m. and it's like, oh, should I respond? And I think it's like, should I respond to that? But I'm like, well, they're probably asleep. And so, I don't know. Sorry, kind of got a little too much in that. But
you're right. I mean, yeah, I think
I'm going to challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to challenge myself, and I'm going to get away from that. It's important. I think it can only do good.
Yeah.
And the last thing on here that we have, as far as some resolutions for some physical ailments, is just visit a doctor. Guys, I'm speaking to the dudes out there because I know us, and for some reason we hate going to the doctor, and not a single one of you can tell me why you don't want to go to the doctor, but every single one of you don't want to go to the doctor, and I don't know why, and you don't know why. It's just a guy thing. We've accepted it, but it's stupid. Just go to the doctor and see what's wrong with you, or see what's not wrong with you, because sometimes you're going to get there and they're going to be like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're going to say, oh, I heard on this podcast that if you go to the doctor and they say there's nothing wrong with you, but you feel bad, it's called stress. And the doctor's going to be like, that's right, Jimmy. Let me tell you about stress. And then it'll be like a cheesy 50s info video. And, seriously, just go to the doctor.
Yeah. It's going to cost you a copay.
Big deal.
I mean, if you don't even have insurance, it may cost you $100. It's just a good time to get examined. And then it's always good to be ahead of something, not behind it.
Stupid tax.
Yeah, stupid tax on the heartbeat.
You don't want to pay the stupid tax on your physical being.
Yeah. But all right, guys, so that we've reached the end of our podcast. This is a quick overview. It's if you're being viewed as you're always tired, you have headaches, your neck hurts, you physically don't look correct in terms of like you just don't look like yourself. Those are big warning signs, and we went into details about that. Resolutions: take time to eat lunch, drink lots of water, look at the medications you're taking that you used to not take, make sleep a priority, and don't use your phone as an alarm. Imagine that. But anyway, guys, thank you again for listening to us. I hope some of this is good information for you. Once again, please send us an email, give us some feedback, let us know what you're thinking. We'd love to hear from you and see how we can bring it into another episode, because I know the next episode that we're working on is actually something that you can all relate to in the sense of trying to grow in terms of growing your business or growing your client list or growing, you become the man or the guy or the person that's the clutch for everything, right? That's actually a really bad thing. I used to be called that all the time. Had no idea that was actually a really, really bad thing. And I reaped all the not the benefits.
Yeah,
it was not good.
That's going to be fun to get into for sure. So stick around and we'll get that one out pretty soon to you.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Work-Life Balance. If you have questions or stories you'd like to share, email us at worklifebalanceshow@gmail.com or call in on Anchor. We'd love to have you on the show.